Since the beginning of time, people have been interested in education, but there has never been a better time than right now for you to educate your children at home. Hi, I'm Christine and welcome to the channel. I'm going to talk today about homeschool routine or routines. Now, routines are important. The reason they're important is everybody knows what's going to happen next, and that is very, very helpful for whatever you're doing, that you know what's happening next. In schools, you probably remember back, we use timetables, and the timetables are really, there's a few reasons why they're used, but it's just mainly so that everybody knows what's happening next. There's an aspect of sharing resources, sharing rooms, things like that. But even if that wasn't necessary, we would still have timetables so that we know what's happening when, so that the children know what's happening and when. And at the beginning of each academic year, the first few weeks, we don't focus so much on the timetable, we don't focus so much on the actual work, but we use that time to, I suppose the word would be establish. We are getting to know one another, the class is getting to know the teacher, and the teacher's getting to know the class. And there's a period of what we could call establishment. And I recommend, if you're going to make your own homeschool routine, that you start there. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's going to be very different from what happens in a classroom, because you're going to be thinking about ordinary tasks, family tasks. For example, making breakfast. That's the beginning of the day. My recommendation would be that the family would work on that together. Everybody would have a specific task. Now, obviously, there are issues depending on how big your family is and what kind of things you have for breakfast. I was recently visiting a family where they have 10 children, and not everyone is involved in making breakfast because there's too many of them. And some of the family are now adults, so they're not going to be, they need to get out earlier, they need to go to work, so they're not going to be involved in these tasks. But the younger ones were, and they had tasks like, for example, making the tea, setting the table. The family ate or eats porridge, so somebody who's old enough and responsible enough could be in charge of making the porridge, and so on like that with different tasks. Then at the end of, once breakfast is over, then there's the tasks of cleaning up. So who clears the table, who wipes the table, who washes the dishes, who puts the dishes away. And this is done for every meal, not just for breakfast, but I'm just thinking about the beginning of the day. So you can work on establishing that. Obviously, depending on how many children you have, depends on how long it might take to train up the children and how many tasks there are and so on, and then how much you have to do yourself. So part of this is about you releasing yourself so that you're not under so much pressure to get so many things done. Okay, then there's other things like laundry, and you can work on different laundry tasks, stripping beds. Perhaps you've got a day a week where everybody strips their own bed, and then somebody is in charge of loading the washing machine, somebody else is in charge of hanging the washing, depending on whether it's what season it is, whether you put it outside or whether you have a dryer, or whether you have somewhere in the house where you can hang up your laundry. And it might be that you can't have everybody's bed stripped on the same day because you don't have enough room to hang up in the house, you know, if it's winter or whatever. So these are things that you can work out for yourself. everyone has chores, everyone knows what the chores are. That would be something that I would work on immediately. Then if you are a Christian family, then you want to include a Bible time, and that's something that you can do straight after breakfast. Certainly the family that I've recently visited, that's what they did. They had a Bible time straight after breakfast. And again, not everybody was there for it because the older ones were out at work, whereas the younger ones had a more relaxed timetable, and they took their time. And once you have established chores for everybody, and I would say don't make the training of that too onerous, and give yourself a few days to get into routines for each meal, who's doing what, and how you're going to make that fit with your day. That's what I would do first. That would be the first routine that I would work on before you've thought about your academic work, before you've thought about the actual work that you're going to do. That's what I would be focusing on. The second thing that I would do then would be to work on things that your children can do on their own. And I don't mean individually necessarily, again, depending on how many children you have. I mean without your input. And obviously this is important because you might have younger children that need your attention. So that's one thing. You also might have other things that you need to do. You might have a little part-time job that you're doing at home and you need a bit of time to do that. You might have just things in the house that you need to get on with, or you might need a little bit of space for you just to think, to plan, to relax, to read, whatever. You might need a little bit of time in the day for that. So the things that I'm thinking of here: drawing, reading, board games, musical instruments, and depending on where you live, maybe time outside in the garden. Things that you can leave them to go on with so that you can do other things. And then once you have established what they can do on their own, then it's time to make a timetable. And I would write down a timetable. You know, if say you decide to start your day at 8 o'clock, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, that's what we would do in school. And because you're at home and not in school, you might want to do a 7-day timetable. Because even at the weekends, there will be chores to do. There will be things that need to be done. You might want to individualise the timetable, i.e. you might want to have each child has their own timetable as well as a kind of centralised timetable that you've got up on the wall, so that each child knows what they're doing on each day, depending on how much that changes from day to day. For example, in terms of chores, you might decide that, and this is something you can talk to the children themselves about. Yeah, you might decide that the individual tasks, the chores, change from day to day, or you might have the same child doing the same chore for every day for a week. You might change it monthly, or if there are particular things that each child likes, or in fact doesn't like, it might be that you keep certain things that actually don't change. So, in terms of a routine for how do you fit your work together, the most important things, and obviously I'm looking at this from a primary perspective: literacy and numeracy first thing in the morning. Have specific literacy tasks, numeracy tasks, and again, there might be situations even here where you need to spend time with one child in their work, and that means that the other children have to have things that they can do themselves. You I mean, I've mentioned reading, drawing, and so on, but there might be puzzles and things they can do that are relevant. Word searches, crosswords, Sudoku, these kinds of things that are puzzles that the children can do while they're waiting for your attention. You know, they're stuck or they're waiting to be given a task, but you're with another child, so there's things that they can get on with. So then you make sure that all your literacy work is done, and then it's the same thing with numeracy, or you might want to do numeracy first. You can change that about. So thanks for joining me today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to you with another video about your how to use the rest of the day for non-literacy and numeracy subjects, and make a routine for those as well. Okay, thanks a lot for listening, and see you next time. Right, that was a bit of a... Oh, wait a minute.